Hey everyone, with me today is Pi, and we're going to be talking about 5 things to kind of keep in mind when you're thinking about getting a new snake. So, this time of year, Christmas, the holiday season, maybe you're thinking about getting a new snake. Maybe you're thinking about getting a new snake for your significant other or a child who's been begging you for a new baby snake or a reptile in general. And so we're going to talk about 5 things to kind of think about when you're like, okay, we're going to go ahead. We're going to get this new reptile pet. So the first thing to always remember, regardless of what time of year it is, what type of animal it is do research on that animal. So if you're getting a boa like Pi here, ball python, bearded dragon, leopard gecko, doesn't matter what species it is, but do your research on it. So what it is, where it is, what it eats, its temperature, its humidity needs, how big is it gonna get? A lot of people, I see it a lot with fish, but a lot of people don't realize that we slow grow our boas here, but Pi could eventually get over 6 feet long. She's a boa constrictor, and they're semi-arboreal. They like to climb. So, well, I guess she's a boa imperator, but still a boa constrictor. But anyway, they like to climb, so she's maybe going to need some climbing space as she gets older. Ball pythons, they're not really visual display animals, but they need some room. They like to stay confined, so they need hides. They need high humidity. They do like to interact with stuff. You're just never going to see it. Bearded dragons need that high hot spot. They need UVB. They get some decent size. They need to move. They like to climb. They need to eat more than just one type of bug. So just things like that. You guys need to really research on whatever it is. And so if you're doing that yourself, reading books, talking to local specialty stores, watching this video and others about whatever animal it is, those are things that you need to do. Or that if you're going to get your significant other or someone is going to be getting one and you're going to be going with them, those are things that you need to know that they're doing before they get an animal that's going to live for over a decade. The next thing to do is research where you're getting the animal from. So this kind of applies a lot more to snakes, but in general. So there's a lot that has to do now. It's very common for online sales when it comes for animals. And so that could be something like the online thing called Morph Market, which is kind of like a big hub for herpetiles because they just added amphibians too. Selling those online from different accredited or at least screened breeders. There is Craigslist and other things like that. Not necessarily Facebook, but different forums. There's like oldkingsnake.com and fauna classifieds and stuff. But do your research on the breeder or where you're going to get it from. So for instance, if it's a breeder and you want to get a ball python, okay, well, let's check out their website. Do they have a Facebook? Do they have a Morph Market account? Do they have an Instagram? Do they have a bit of a reputation? Like, do they have, kind of a name behind them? Or if not, do they seem kind of at least a little bit legit on their Instagram? Does it seem like they're taking really nice, clean pictures? Does their facility or tubs look clean? Do all the other animals that they're showing off look clean, healthy, pretty? If he has sold other animals, are there reviews? Read those reviews. Just do a little bit of background knowledge on whoever it is you happen to be getting the animal from. So the next one is, if you're going to get it in person, there are still quite a few brick and mortar, specialty reptile stores or even local breeders that might be producing the animal that you want to get. Oh, hey, Pi, what are you doing, buddy? And then if you're going to buy in person, you need to kind of visually inspect the animal. I know it's not something that can happen with online sales, but if you're doing it in a store, if you're doing it in person with an individual breeder, make sure you kind of visually inspect the animal. So come here, Pi. So, check it over. Does it have any scars or scratches from like rodent bites? Are its eyes clear? Are they wide open? Does its mouth look clean? Visually inspect it for mites or parasites. Does it have nice clean sheds to know it's been taken care of properly? Things like that. And also the other thing to do is when you're contacting whoever it is you're selling, including in person, and this kind of ties into the next one, and we're just going to kind of flow into it. And that's, make sure that where you're getting it from is keeping proper documentation of that animal, and it knows individually things about said animal. So for instance, its feeding chart, if you're buying a baby, When did it hatch? When did it shed? Did it, defecate? All what it's eating, when it's eating, how many times it's eaten if it's a baby. If it's an adult, when was its last shed? Does it have issues with regurgitation or things like that? A lot of this kind of applies to snakes because, let's be honest with you guys, I'm definitely more of a snake person than a lizard or amphibian person, but all that still applies to bearded dragons. When were they born? What is it eating? Is it on live? Does it eat mice, rats? If it's a bearded dragon or a blue-tongued skink, is it eating a prepared diet? Is it eating a mixture of bugs and greens and things like that? So just, make sure that wherever you're getting it from is keeping up with that proper documentation and can answer questions about that specific animal. And so wait, is that 1, 2, 3, 4? I don't know. How many was that? Is that 4? I think that was 4. Yeah, we'll say 4. So the last thing to kind of remember is just kind of feel it out. So I know there's a lot of stigma behind like Craigslist and stuff like that, which kind of rightfully so. There can be some pretty sketchy individuals and situations that can happen with Craigslist sales. And even then, it's also kind of can tie into a store that you're going into. If it feels uncomfortable, kind of sketchy to you, just don't go ahead with it. Don't let whoever it is pressure you into something. If you're doing an online Craigslist sale, make sure you're meeting somewhere public that they'll let you visibly inspect the animal first, that you talk to the person first before meeting them in person online, a little bit of back and forth. And then if you're in a specialty store, don't let them pressure you into getting something. If it just kind of feels uncomfortable, don't do it. Being safe is also a big part of kind of everything in life. And so, if it doesn't feel right to you, then, get out of it. So for instance, Pi here, she was actually purchased from a Craigslist person online out of state. We got her from a breeder in South Dakota, which rightfully, I have a little bit of a bad history about buying things out of state. Once went to Missouri to pick up a car, which that's a whole other story. But, we talked back and forth quite a bit. We went and met at Reptile Gardens in South Dakota, nice public space. We talked a little bit there. We got to sit here and check out her and her brother Ro. So it all felt good. So that means that, there can be decent people, because including small breeders who just have maybe an easier time moving animals through Craigslist. So, not saying don't do that and don't go to your, brick and mortar store, whatever it is, don't do that. But, if it feels right, if the animals look healthy, if it seems like they're being taken care of, and the person seems like a legitimate, caring individual, then, go right ahead. Hopefully this was able to help everyone out to think about things. I'm sure you probably already do quite a bit of this to begin with, but hey, just throwing it out there, sometimes there were things that I didn't really think about when I first went and got started and were just kind of buying up snakes left and right, because let's be honest, they're addictive, that I kind of wish somebody was in the back of my ear going, hey, maybe don't buy this boa out of the guy's back of a van that he appears to be living out of. Ugh. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it gave you ideas, or at least something to think about if you're thinking about purchasing a new reptile pet. Please like and subscribe if you can. Always remember, if you have any questions, comments, hit me up down below in the comments. jzsreptiles@gmail.com. Hope you have a safe, happy holiday season, and we'll check you next time.